Today, I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know so that you can make your own adorable little groundhog just in time for Groundhog Day. Hey guys, welcome back to Crafts Go Bloom. My name is Krista, and let's get started on this no-sew groundhog pattern. So we've got two colors going on here. We're going to be doing some color changes, and the tail is actually a separate piece that we'll make by itself, and then once we get pretty far into the pattern, we're going to tie it on. The way that this pattern is going to work is I will have the pattern going across the screen. If I'm going too fast for you, just go ahead and pause the video, finish the round you're working on, and then go ahead and hit start again once you are caught up to where we're working. I am also going to have the PDF link down below if you would like to follow along with that while we make it. And this PDF for the groundhog is a 2-in-1 pattern pack that also comes with the pattern for this beaver. And I will link the tutorial video for the beaver down below as well. At the time of recording this, the beaver video is not out yet. And so once it is, it will be linked down below, but either way, you'll be able to check down below and see what that says. So let's take a look at our supplies for today. First up, I've got Bernat blanket yarn in the color taupe. Now, I'm in the US, and the only place I can typically find this is on Amazon. I have seen a few people find it at a Meijer, if you happen to have a Meijer near you, but I don't, so I have to order this one. The other color that I'm going to be using is Bernat blanket yarn in the color coal. And I get my Bernat blanket yarn from Joann, so if you're living somewhere else, you may need to use a different yarn, and that's fine. I've also seen this pattern made in Parfait Chunky, and it turns out great. This particular one that I've already made, I used Big Twist Posh from Joann, and I've also seen people make it in Bernat, so I know that it's going to turn out great in any one of these yarns. I also have a stitch marker, a sharp pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, my crochet hook. Because I'm using Bernat blanket in this specific taupe color, it's a little bit thicker than some of the other Bernat yarns, so I'm going to be using my 6.5 hook. But you just need to use whatever hook it is that makes sense with the yarn you're using so that you have tight stitches and we don't have any stuffing showing. I also have 12mm safety eyes in their backs here, and I have a safety nose for today as well. I don't always use safety noses, but I think they look kind of cute here. And honestly, I'm not sure what the sizes are for noses, but it's pretty close to the eye, so I'm going to guess and say it's about a 12mm. You don't have to use safety eyes or safety noses. You could do either one of these in yarn, and if you are giving this to a child who's still putting toys in their mouth, I would suggest doing yarn so that they don't choke on anything here. Before we get started with the body of the groundhog, the first thing we need to do is make the tail so that it's ready to go when we get that far into the body of the groundhog. So we're going to start with a slip knot. So I just kind of wrap that in a loop and pull through the center. And we're going to chain 6. If you're not sure how to do that, you are just yarning over and pulling through your loop on your hook, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, I'm doing black stitches, so I know it's going to be a little difficult for you to see on camera, but if you've done 6 chains, look down at yours. We're going to start in the second chain from the hook, and we're going to single crochet 5 back down the line here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then when you get to the end of that, just chain 1 again to finish off, and then we're going to cut a tail. And go ahead and leave the tail like that and pull that through. And later on when we get there, we're going to be pulling this through and then tying it on the inside. So just go ahead and set that aside and we'll get there when we get there. The way we're going to start this pattern is with a magic ring, and so I will show you how to make that. The way I make a magic ring is by laying the yarn over my hand like this and grabbing it with my thumb. I wrap the yarn around the back of 3 fingers and cross it, and then I pinch that X. Next, I go across the back of my hand and I grab it with my pinky. I'm going to grab my hook, go up under the front loop, grab the back loop, pull that through, and then twist. And then I'm going to grab the yarn over here and I'm pulling that through the loop on my hook, and then get that all straightened out, and I've got my magic ring. If you are new to doing that, I highly suggest that you just go back and watch that a couple of times. It looked pretty scary to me when I first saw someone else doing it, and now I can do it while I'm watching TV and I don't even have to look at it. For round 1, we're going to single crochet 6 into this magic ring. If you're unfamiliar with how to do that, you're going to insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And that's 1 single crochet. And that's a single crochet no matter where we're putting our hook into in this pattern. You're always going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So there we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we're going to pull on this tail to close our magic ring, being careful that you don't pull so tight that you snap your ring and everything kind of falls apart. And yes, that can happen. Ask me how I know. I'm going to add my stitch marker into the last stitch of the round so that I know where my stopping point is as I'm going around. For round 2, we're going to increase 6 times for a total of 12 stitches. And an increase is just doing 2 single crochets into the same space. Same thing, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So keep repeating that until you have 12 stitches. For round 3, we're going to increase and then single crochet 1, repeating that pattern around 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. So we've got our increase, that's where we're going to put 2 single crochets into one spot. And then in the next space, you're just going to do 1 single crochet. And then you're going to repeat that pattern around. So now I've got another increase, and then 1 single crochet. For round 4, we're going to increase and then do 2 single crochets. And we're going to repeat that pattern 6 times for a total of 24 stitches. And so we're going to do the exact same thing, increase, but then you're going to do 2 single crochets. So we've got our increase, that's 2 in one spot. And then we're going to do a single crochet and a single crochet. And then we're going to repeat that around. As you're working along through here, and we start to add more rounds, it starts to make this cupped shape, but the inside is actually where your magic ring is, down inside of there, and you can kind of see a difference in the stitches. They look a little cleaner on the outside here. Moving on to round 5, I'm going to put the instructions here for you, and it's going to seem like a lot all at one time if you're new, but we're going to break this down and just do step by step going through these instructions. So first, we're just going to start with single crocheting 15. Okay, I've got my 15 single crochets, and the next thing we're going to do is 3 double crochets all into the next stitch. And the way you do a double crochet is by yarning over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to do that 2 more times. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to do that once more. And then we're going to single crochet 6. You just want to make sure that you're actually going into the next stitch, that your double crochets are not leaning over and covering anything up. And now we're going to repeat that ear again on the other side with 3 double crochets all in the same space. And then for the last stitch of the round, we're going to single crochet 1 in the back loops only. If you're unfamiliar with finding the back loops, just insert your hook the normal way, and there's a V of yarn on your hook, and that's what makes up a stitch. So you're just pulling apart that V and finding the back loop. So you take your hook out, if you put it in there to find it, make sure you're just going kind of down through the top and only getting that back loop. You're going to single crochet 1 there. Now for round 6, we're going to single crochet 15 in the back loops only for starters. After you single crochet 15 in the back loops only, you're going to make it to the ear. Now we're going to completely skip over the front of the ear, and we're going to flip this over and go to the back. And you're going to insert your hook through the back bottom loops of the middle double crochet. And you're going to do a single crochet through those loops. And then, looking at the front, you're going to skip over 1, 2, 3 of the double crochets that we did there. And then we're going to keep going in the back loops only for those 6 stitches in between the ears. And that's going to make our ear pop out like that. Same thing again, when we get to that next ear, we're going to skip the front, go to the back, wiggle my hook in there because that stitch was a little too tight, and then yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now when you get to the final stitch of the round, you're going to do just a regular single crochet. You're not going to go in the back loops only, just a normal one. And make sure that you're skipping over those 3 stitches for the ear so that they pop out in the front. I'm going to go ahead and take a break here after round 6 and get the face on. I don't like to do the faces when I have too much of the body and have to reach in there and deal with the eyes, or if I have to embroider on any kind of facial details. I want to do those while the project is open and I can just tie them off in the back. So if you're using yarn for your nose or eyes, I would do it now. Tie it in a knot in the back and then you can just be done with it and it's out of your way. First up, I'm going to add the eyes to this pattern and they're going to go between rounds 2 and 3 about 4 stitches apart. And if you're unfamiliar with this, that inside circle is the magic circle that you made at the very beginning. And so that's round 1 and then we have round 2. So we're looking at between rounds 2 and 3 and about 4 stitches apart. Now just about every time I ever put in safety eyes, I feel like I don't get it quite right the first time. So don't be afraid if you need to move them around a little bit and see what you think. I'm not going to put the backs on mine yet because I want to put the nose in first and see how I like that. Now the nose goes right below that magic ring. And I misspoke earlier when I was talking about the small nose that I had grabbed the nose I used on this Posh size here. So I actually went up a size in the noses. And this goes right down here under the magic circle. Whoops, we lost an eye. That'll be okay though. I want to get this nose definitely in the center and then be able to make sure that my eyes are centered on the nose and with the ears. I think that that's looking pretty good. So let's get the backs on these eyes. If you're unfamiliar with this, you're just gonna hold the eye in place on the front and then you're gonna take this little plastic washer and slide that over the end, and there are some different indents on the end of the eye that once you click that down, it's going to hold that in place. Let's do the other one a little bit closer here. And you can't hear it click, but you can definitely feel them click in. And then the nose is going to go on the same way. And here's what we've got after I've got the nose on. Moving on to round 7, the first thing we're going to do is single crochet 4. Now on that 4th single crochet, I'm actually going to back up and only insert my hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop. And then the next thing we need to do is add our black yarn in here. We're going to change colors to black, and the way I do that is by having these 2 loops on the hook and then yarning over with the black yarn or whatever color it is that you're changing to and pulling that through. Now I'm going to crochet over these 2 tails, basically, like the tail of the black yarn that we just started using and the working yarn of the brown, because we're going to go back to that soon. And all we're going to do now that we're in the black is 1 bobble stitch, and then at the end of it, we'll switch colors and go back to brown. So we're trying to make those black feet on the bottom. So what you do for a bobble stitch is yarn over, insert your hook and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Now we have 2 loops on our hook. You're going to repeat that process until you have 5 loops on the hook. So we're going to yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and only pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. Now I've got 3, so do that 2 more times. Now that I have 5 loops on my hook, I'm going to put the black down, both black, working yarn and tail, both of the black, and I'm going to yarn over with the brown and pull that through. And then we're going to single crochet 4. And on that 4th single crochet, we're going to switch back to black, and we're going to do the exact same thing for the foot on the other side. I'm going to leave the tail of the black down. I'm not going to be using that anymore, but I'm going to pull up that working yarn on the black, and I'm going to crochet over the brown, doing another bobble stitch over here. And same thing again, we're going to pull through with the brown yarn through all of those loops, and then you should have 2 feet all lined up with the ears and the eyes there at the bottom. And then we're going to single crochet 14 to finish out the round. And we're going to leave that black yarn attached and just sort of move it out of the way and don't do anything with it until we get through the bobble stitches for the back feet, and then we'll cut that off, and I'll show you guys how to do that process when we get there. For rounds 8 and 9, you're just going to single crochet 24 all the way around for a total of 24 stitches. And if you've never done this before, when you go to single crochet in the bobble stitch, it's important that you only go through the same stitches that you would go through on a single crochet. I know it's a little difficult to see in the black yarn here, but you want to move the bobble part of it down and just hook under those top 2. That way everything is the same and we've just got 24 around. So that was the end of round 8, and I'm going to finish round 9 off camera. You're just single crocheting 24 for a total of 24 stitches. I finished round 9, so we've got 2 rounds of stitches after that foot. And for round 10, the first thing we're going to do is single crochet 4, and then we're going to do the same thing and switch to black and do a bobble. And before I even do that switch, I'm going to stop and make sure that 4 is the correct number of single crochets for my particular plushie that I'm making right now. The pattern does say 4, and most of the time you need 4. But you want to make sure that your feet are going to line up with your entire pattern. And sometimes it's a little nicer to look at it this direction and then see, I need that foot. It goes, yeah, it's going to be in the right spot for me here. It isn't always. And then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 in between, and then we'll work on that second bobble. Just because the pattern for something says that that is where the foot is supposed to be, or if you're making a bird, that that is where the wing is supposed to be, different appendages like that in a no-sew pattern, you may have to manipulate where they are based on your tension. Also, if you're yarning under instead of yarning over, they're going to end up in the wrong spot, and you'll just need to switch them around. The important thing is that we have 24 stitches total. 2 of those are bobbles. So for the rest of the round, we have 22 single crochets. So as long as you get to the end of the round with 22 single crochets and 2 feet as bobble stitches, and that they line up and they look good, that's all that matters. And it's totally okay to manipulate the pattern like that. It is more important that you end up with a plushie that looks nice, that's going to sell well at markets or make a good gift or whatever it is that you're making it for. I forgot to crochet over the brown, but that's totally fine. It doesn't really matter. We're going to pull that through though, and then I'm going to single crochet 4 and see. I think I might have to put 5 stitches in between my back feet to get them to line up. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. My other foot would end up over here, and that's too close in the middle. So I'm going to put 5 single crochets in between my feet, but it's okay because I will still have 22 single crochets at the end of the round and 2 bobble stitches for a total of 24 stitches. And then finish out the round with single crochets until you get back to your stitch marker. And as long as you didn't have to change anything from the pattern, you're going to have 14 single crochets to get back around. And I'm starting to get twisted up here. That might happen to you. I'm just going to untwist the whole project to make it a little nicer to work on. Now I'm going to pull out that working yarn and take care of that black tail because we don't need that anymore, so it's going to get annoying to constantly be working around that. And I'm going to cut this long enough that I can tie a knot with it. So I have the 2 black tails inside here, and I'm going to go ahead and tie those into a couple of knots. The first knot I'm going to tie is very loose because I don't want to actually pull the project in. If you tie it too tight, you'll start to pinch your whole project. I just want to tie it because I don't want to have to weave in any more ends than necessary. And we can just stuff that back in there, and that'll work great. For round 11, we're going to just single crochet 24 again for a total of 24 stitches. So work on that, and I will meet you back here when I'm finished with that. I finished round 11, and now we've got another round of stitches behind the back feet. For round 12, we're going to invisible decrease and then single crochet 2 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. Now the way you invisible decrease is by putting your hook in the front loops only of the next 2 stitches. Yarn over, pull up that loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So you're making a single crochet, you're just going through 2 stitches at one time, and that's turning 2 stitches into 1 because we're starting to decrease on the back. And then we're just going to do 2 single crochets. For round 13, we're going to invisible decrease and then single crochet 1. And we're going to repeat that pattern around 6 times for a total of 12 stitches. Now I'm going to pull out that working yarn, get my stitch marker back in there, and add my stuffing. Be careful that you're holding onto your working yarn and you don't stuff it down in there. I want to make sure you get stuffing all the way up to the front and make sure that it's not moving your eyes or your nose. Sometimes the stuffing can kind of like shove those backs down. One has a little groundhog nose to stick out. And I always add just a little more stuffing than other crocheters because I know that my kids, when they play with these things, they just keep squishing them until they get kind of flat. So I try to prevent that, add a little extra stuffing on the front end so that as kids are playing with them, they don't completely lose their shape. And before we move on, we're also going to be tying on the tail. And we just finished round 13, and we want to tie on this tail between round 12 and round 13. You want to take a look at your tail and make sure that you have the right side of the stitches up. So you want to look at it and be able to say, I crocheted along this way. This is my top. We're going to put that down here at the bottom between rounds 12 and 13. And we want to make sure that it is centered between the feet. And you can use a tapestry needle if you'd like to, but what I like to do is just hook this with my crochet hook. Pull that through. And it's probably only going to go around one stitch of the round. We're not trying to have our yarn tails show at all, so we're going to hide those. And then we're going to pull that tight and tie that on the inside. I apologize for that clicking noise. It is the nose of the groundhog hitting my table. And this, you can tie that first knot as tight as you want. We want to make sure that it's really going to stay attached and it's not going to distort anything at all if you tie that one kind of tight. So there we go. And then take those yarn tails and stuff those in as a little bit of extra stuffing, and we have our groundhog tail. Going on to round 14, we're on our final round, and we're going to invisible decrease slip stitch. And what that means is basically exactly how it sounds. We're going to invisible decrease, so we're going to start by getting the 2 loops on our hook from the next stitch. We're going to yarn over and pull through those. And then we're also going to pull through the loop on our hook. And what that's doing is giving it a flat area at the back because we're not trying to make it come to a point at all. And this big bulky blanket yarn, if we do regular invisible decreases, it often comes to a point in the back. Sometimes that might be what you're looking for like a lizard or something, but it's not what we're looking for with a groundhog. Again, I apologize for that clicking noise. I'm trying to hold this up off the table so that the nose isn't clicking on my table. And then we've got our last one. And you're going to finish off by just chaining 1, cut a long tail, pull that through, and thread that onto your tapestry needle. Now we're going to go through the front loops only of that last round and weave through those and then pull that closed. And then what I always do is put my needle through there, come out over here on the side, remove any little stuffing fuzzies that came with my needle, and I'm going to go through those single crochet loops. I'm going to go up and over until I get to the other foot just to sink that yarn tail in there. Do not pull too tightly if you do this, because you will create like a little tight ring, like it's tied like a sausage in the middle. We don't want that. We just want it to lay flat in there. And I don't have any trouble when I do that with the tails coming loose if it needs to get washed in the washing machine. Which, if you have kids at some point, things have to go through the washing machine. And then go ahead and cut that as close to the body as you can without cutting the body. Pull out that little yarn fuzz. And there you go, we finished a groundhog just in time for Groundhog Day. I live where it is snowing a lot right now, so I am hoping that the groundhog lets us know that spring is coming. Leave a comment down below and let me know, how did you like the pacing of this video? It's a little bit longer than some of my other ones, and I would like to hear what your guys' feedback on that is. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next no-sew tutorial, you guys. Bye!